YouTube, with the Golden State Warriors losing in the play-in tournament in 2024, despite having nearly the same roster they had in 2022 when they won their finals for the fourth time during the Steph, Klay, and Dray era, with Steph, Klay, and Dray getting older and approaching their mid-30s, and obviously the team not being as dominant as it once was, with Klay Thompson being an unrestricted free agent set to make a big payday in the offseason, with Draymond Green's antics starting to catch up with him. I have a very important question for all you Warriors fans out there. Is the Golden State Warriors Dynasty officially over, and should they look to move on from this core of big three that they've won 4 championships with in the past and built their dynasty upon? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So many interesting discussions with this topic. Let's get straight into it, folks. So I think before we answer the question of is this, dynasty over, I think it's a little more nuanced than that. I don't think it's a yes or no type of thing. We got to get into the specifics, the meat and potatoes, the nitty gritty of this situation, and assess the situation you have right now on your roster, right? And some of the problems you'll face in this offseason, what the team might look like moving forward, what pieces you want to hang on to, and which ones maybe you want to part with in the offseason, right? Let's take some inventory of this roster and really get into what they have going for them and maybe where they could make some big improvements in the offseason. First thing you obviously got to note when discussing the Warriors is the GOAT of shooting, and that is Stephen Curry. Curry still being somehow in his prime. His longevity is up there with some of the greats like Kevin Durant, LeBron James. You really got to admire his longevity. Obviously still a top 10 player in the league. I don't think anyone would deny that. Curry is a guy that you can absolutely still win with even at his age, right? The question then becomes, do you have the talent on the roster right now that is sufficient enough to be able to get a guy like Steph Curry all the way to the finals once again? I think if you watch last season and the season before that, the answer is probably no, right? I think with this current roster and the way it's constructed, you've kind of hit your limit and ceiling in that regard, and maybe you have to make some big changes and shake things up quite a bit to be able to supply Steph Curry with the necessary talent to get back to the promised land, right? So that's number one. You have the good thing you have going for you is Steph Curry, one of the greatest players in NBA history, the greatest shooter of all time, still in his prime form. And all you got to do, easier said than done, is, build a roster around him that's good enough to compete with teams like Dallas, Minnesota, Denver, year in and year out, right? So there's a clear, window. How much longer Steph Curry will be in this prime form that he's in, that's remained to be seen, but you do have a small window at the very minimum to be able to get back to where you were, right? So that's obviously a great thing. But with all that being said, that puts a lot of pressure on you this offseason and maybe next offseason to do that in short order, right? You got to get it done in the next few years or it's going to be done. As far as the big three is concerned, right? Steph, Klay, and Dray, obviously one of the most dominant trios in NBA history. These guys have mastered the art of chemistry and team basketball together, but clearly, they're aging. And I would say as far as Draymond and Klay Thompson is concerned, I think it's fair to say they're not the players they once were, right? Klay Thompson is going to be a free agent in the offseason. I expect him to leave, no doubt about it. I don't think the Warriors want to pay him as much as he's going to get because he is a great shooter, still one of the greatest shooters in the league. Every team needs shooting, right? So, Klay's going to get a big payday, multi-year contract with somebody looking to acquire his services. I don't think it's going to be Golden State. I think they got to move on from Klay Thompson if you're Golden State, unfortunately. Probably going to be an emotional thing for a lot of Warriors fans because you've had so many great moments with Klay, but hey, man, it's time. Everybody has their time. Nothing great lasts forever, and you got to move on. But round of applause for Klay Thompson's, work with the Warriors, and it's going to be a silent one because of the mic. I don't want it to pick up the clapping, but already one person out of the big three is headed somewhere else, right? So now you're left with Steph Curry, Draymond, a bunch of really good role players, maybe a couple young guys that have some star potential. We'll talk about that in a bit, but okay, so we've addressed Steph Curry. We've addressed the, greatness that he's still able to provide at his age. The window is small, but you do have a window to be able to get back to where you were. We've addressed Klay Thompson and the fact that the best thing for the Warriors probably to do moving forward to fill out the roster around Steph is probably to move on from Klay Thompson because, it's just not working out as him being your second or third guy right now. And that type of money would kind of lock you into something that's not working already. So Klay Thompson will be moving on. So now, the question is Draymond Green, right? Draymond Green's contract is pretty large, and I really do think Draymond has been really, really underrated for the past 5 years or so. I mean, he's still a great piece to that team. What he provides, the leadership, the emotional leadership, and just, the total dog. And as far as on the court, clearly is still an impactful player. I mean, the defense that he provides, so versatile, number one. You could still play him at the 5 and the 4. Great help defender, great one-on-one defender against players of similar size to him. Provides a lot of stability for the Warriors on the defensive side of the floor. On the offensive side of the floor, he really contributes to what the Warriors like to do offensively, setting those screens, those pin down screens for the shooters, those, off ball type of little things that really free up guys like Steph Curry and Klay to wreak havoc from the perimeter, and still one of the greatest playmakers in the NBA, hands down. I mean, the guy has a basketball IQ that you rarely see around this league, right? But all that being said, is Draymond Green really worth second or third option type money at this point in his career, even for the Warriors, where his impact is going to be higher there than it would be anywhere else? I think that's a real question. You know, I've seen a lot of things on Twitter and things from Warriors fans and the Warriors fan base that they're just absolutely done with Draymond. You know, for one, the guy, all that great stuff I said about him is absolutely still true in my opinion, but he does have a tendency to get into some antics a lot of times and cost the team in that regard. You know, it ends up hurting the team more than helping them when you're punching dudes in the face, you're getting suspended, you're getting technical fouls, stuff like that. It really can add up and hurt a team. Not only that, but you know, him trash talking everybody and making himself so hateable all the time on the court really puts a target on your team's back a lot of times, and you know, it ends up causing you more problems than it's worth. So I think Draymond, you know, maybe moving on from Draymond and trading him, see what you could get for him. I'm sure there's a team that would still give you a couple nice draft picks for Draymond, but explore some options. You know what I mean? If you're the Warriors front office, I think you have to explore some options, the best ones you can for Draymond. If nothing's great, you know, maybe you keep him around, see what you can get at the deadline or something like that. But if you don't get the offers you want, I think he's still a really, really great player and clearly impactful still to the Warriors and what they want to do. So obviously Draymond is one of the more polarizing figures in the NBA, and certainly in this offseason for Golden State, they're really going to have to make a commitment. You keep him long term, or do you know, maybe move off of him long term right now? That's going to be the question for Draymond. Let's talk about some of the more intriguing and high levels of variability and volatility pieces on the Warriors, and two of those guys are Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. First one being Andrew Wiggins. Let's talk about him first of all. Something I find fascinating is Andrew Wiggins' level of play last season, right? The guy went from being maybe the second best player throughout the finals of the Warriors finals run in 2022, locking down guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown on the defensive end of the floor, being one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league, hitting big shots, and just overall stepping up in massive moments for the Warriors, really being the second or third guy, like I said, best player on that team, behind maybe Steph Curry and some other guys during that finals run. And you say, well, that's pretty great, right? The problem is, since then, he's looked like a shell of himself. Like, I know there's been some injuries, some personal things with him, but honestly, man, at the end of the day, he just hasn't played like that guy from 2022 playoff run since the playoff run, right? Especially last year. I mean, he just wasn't himself. He was shooting the ball poorly for a lot of the season. He wasn't stepping up, missed a lot of time. I mean, it's just, you know, you locked him in for a long-term contract, and maybe he's just, you gotta feel like if you're a Warriors fan or the Warriors staff, he's just not living up to that right now. So Wiggins is a really crucial piece to this situation, because what Andrew Wiggins you get in the 2025 season, whether it's the 2022 version of him in the playoff run or the last couple year version of Andrew Wiggins, is going to be one of the keys to the Warriors 2025 season. If you can get the guy from 2022, I'd say he's worth more than his contract suggests with the salary he's going to be getting. If you can get that guy or anywhere close to that guy, you got to keep him around. But if you're going to get the guy from last year, you got to move on from Andrew Wiggins, because that's just not worth the value. You know what I mean? So a really crucial piece to this whole thing is Andrew Wiggins and what type of Andrew Wiggins you get in the 2025 season. The next guy I'd like to mention, Jonathan Kuminga, who I believe is up for a contract extension. I believe he's a restricted free agent, should get something really good in the offer sheet. You know what I mean? If you got to match it, if you're the Warriors, he is one of your guys of the future, clearly having, you know, really good upside from that forward position. Dude is an athletic freak, versatile defender, versatile offensive player. You know, he's starting to develop some offensive game. He gets to the rim super well. He's got good size, can handle the ball pretty well for his size. He can develop a consistent three-point shot. He's going to be a nightmare. Star potential if he can develop that three consistently. He's already working on a lot of mid-range stuff right now, and like I said, he is a nightmare downhill and in transition getting to the rack. He's just a really athletic guy that has a lot of skills at his young age to be able to shape up into a star type player for the Warriors. You gotta see what you have there, and that is one of the more promising pieces if you're a Warriors fan, along with a guy named Trayce Jackson-Davis, who the Warriors drafted last year as a rookie and had one of the best rookie seasons of any big man not named Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. The guy was really special. I mean, he's a really good athlete from that 5 position, you know, does a lot of things well. He's kind of like a more athletic version of Looney, you know what I mean? Really good offensive rebounder, can, you know, get a lot of putbacks and stuff like that. He's just a really solid guy that fits that team super well, gets up and down the floor, passes the ball well for his size, you know what I mean? I think these type of role players, Kuminga, Jackson-Davis, and Brandon Podziemski, who I'm going to talk about in a bit, are the future of this team, you know, and how they play next season will determine a lot of things for you guys. But seriously, you have something there in Jackson Davis. And like I said, him, Kuminga, and Podziemski could be the big three of the future, right? These guys are worth hanging on to. There's clearly a lot of potential with those three young guys, and there's a lot to like and build around with those three guys. For one, other than Kuminga, you have them all on pretty much rookie deals, so you can get a lot of value out of them around Steph Curry, and they provide a lot of youth. And you know, that's one of the things a lot of dynasties struggle with to stay relevant, is infusing the team with youth and good young players that have good athleticism and bounce and juice off the bench and stuff like that. And the Warriors have done a really great job through the draft of being able to provide those players around Steph Curry, because once a team starts getting older, a good example of this is the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. After the finals run that they had in 2011, their core just got really old and slow, and they just got beat a lot of times by more athletic younger teams. Even though they were a lot of the times the better team in that scenario, they just weren't young and athletic enough to be able to sustain a playoff series. The Warriors have done a great job of getting athletes and young guys on this team to build around their older stars, like Trace Jackson Davis. Now, Brandon Podziemski is one of the more intriguing players to me, because he is the guy out of all of them that I think next year could take the biggest leap. I mean, him and Kuminga really, because Podziemski shows a lot of, you know, upside on, first of all, he's just an amazing player. I love his play style. I love how sound he is already as a rookie. I believe you took him 17th in the draft last year. You have to be thrilled if you were the Warriors from that, you know, guard position. He is such a game changer for you guys already. And I think he's going to take a big leap next year. He's one of the candidates for breakout players for me next year. Did so many great things as a utility guy for the Warriors last season. First of all, he rebounds the ball so well from the guard position. I mean, dude's a double-double candidate every game from the guard position, you know? But because of his ability to handle the ball, and honestly at times look to find his own shot pretty consistently last season, I think you have something there in Podziemski. You know, if he can build a consistent three-pointer, you know, it doesn't have to be Klay Thompson level, right? Like, you can't replace that. But if the guy can create his own three consistently, play hard, hustle on defense, and rebound the ball really well, he's also a really gifted passer and offensive mind. I think he's really understands the game well for a kid his age, has a really good feel for the game, and that's the kind of guy that the Warriors love to look for. I'm telling you, Podziemski is, I can't say enough great things about him. The Warriors are gotta be thrilled with the pick that they made. This is a guy who I think could take a big leap next season because of his ability to handle the ball and create his own offense at times. I think if he works on that and expands his own offensive game a little bit, especially from the perimeter, gets a little bit better from the free throw line. That's another one of his issues. Shot poor for the free throw line for a guard. If he can get up around 75-80% next season, I think you got a young star in the making in Podziemski, or at the very minimum, a really great role player, if nothing else. So the Warriors do have a lot of promise in that organization. You know, Chris Paul might be around next year. We'll have to see what happens with that. Kind of an interesting situation there. You're going to lose maybe guys like Dario Saric, and you could use a lot more depth on that team from really just the wings in general. I think could use a lot of depth, but I think they have a good balance of older, you know, really seasoned guys that can provide a lot of great things on the floor night in and night out, that have a lot of winning experience, like Curry, like Looney, like Draymond, like CP3. But then you also have a ton of upside, you know, from the younger guys. You have a really good balance of the two. I think now the question is, can you just get more guys like Wiggins, who are kind of in the middle of those two things and in their prime now? I think you got to get someone in the offseason that can, first of all, replace, you know, Klay's value as an offensive player, right? You got to get some, you know, maybe not more, it doesn't have to be that level of shooter. You're just not going to find that, but someone that can really play well off the ball, is a really smart player, can move freely throughout an offense, can lock up on the defensive end, kind of a two-way guy that can create their own shot. That's what you got to be looking for if you're the Warriors. Can't just be Steph. We know now. Sometimes, man, he just looks so frustrated with having to carry that team night in and night out. You know, you have really good role players, but on offense, he is absolutely drained throughout these games, late in the games, especially towards the end of the season, man. He just looks so frustrated. Like, come on, can someone else do something? And I feel for that, man, because he really is the lone offensive guy on this team at times in the moments that get really big. I think Wiggins has got to step up as that offensive guy, as we've seen him do in 2022 and early throughout his career. He does have the upside to be able to create his own shot and get a bucket when you need him. You know, there's no reason he can't do that on a bigger scale like in 2022. But you got to be able to find somebody that can, you know, relieve the pressure of Steph Curry throughout, you know, late in these games when he's totally just done everything up to that point offensively. You got to get someone in there that can kind of balance that out, like you see with Luka and Kyrie in these playoffs. You know, Kyrie tells Luka, like, whenever you need me, I'm here. I gotcha. I can take over, right? That's what Steph Curry needs. He needs that type of guy, and I think it's going to have to be a guard or a wing that can handle the ball. Either way you slice it, you do have one of the best players in the NBA, in the world, and of all time on your team, still in prime form, able to put up 30 a night whenever he wants, able to carry a team as long as, you know, he has the help around him, and that's something that not a lot of teams can say. So you do have have that going for you, right? The problem is filling that roster around him sufficiently like you did in your dynasty. I think the Warriors just need a star. You know, they just need another superstar, a star type of player that can help Steph Curry offensively. You know, the interior of their defense is a little porous at times. I think they could use a little bit more defensive guys, but you know, all in all, I just think they need that guy to be able to step up in big moments, like I said, and take the pressure off Curry. That's what they should be looking to fill this offseason. Easier said than done, obviously, and their cap situation isn't great. They have a lot of guys on big money on the roster, but Klay leaving could free up some versatility and flexibility in the offseason. So we'll have to see how it goes, man. But as far as the question to the, you know, thing, is the Warriors dynasty done? I think there's a good chance that it is, but I think there's a good chance that it isn't. You know, I'd say it's about 50-50. If you can realistically find somebody to fill those shoes of that second guy, I think there's a good a chance as any that the Warriors are right up there with a team like Denver, Minnesota, and OKC, Dallas. Like they are that good if they get a second star. But their top end talent other than Curry has just really dropped down significantly since 2022. And if they get a guy like that, I think they're right up there, and I think their dynasty is still as strong as ever. They have a good a chance to win as ever. So no, I don't think their dynasty's over. As long as you have Steph Curry on the roster, the big three might be broken up. You might move on from Draymond and Klay, but if you got that sharpshooter from outside, I think, you know, you're in the mix. You know, you're always going to be in the mix. You're always going to be in the playoff hunt. You just got to get some guys around them that are, you know, good enough. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I just thought this was an interesting topic to talk about today. Make sure you guys drop a like if you did. Let me know down in the comment section if you're a Warriors fan, what you guys think of this situation, because it's got to be pretty, you know, mixed reactions to this. If I'm a Warriors fan, I'm feeling like it's time to move on from these other guys, but you know, they brought me so much joy and our team so much success, so it's hard to, you know, say I don't want them on our team anymore. Yeah, I honestly don't know what that feels like being a Sixers fan. I don't know any of what you're going through, but that's how I would perceive it. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day today. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, because we're going to be covering topics just like this every single day on this channel. We upload every day, and I don't want you guys to miss it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the conference finals as much as I am. Maybe we'll make a video on that sometime soon. I'll catch you guys on the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.